Okay. Black History Moment, recognizing young lady from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today we celebrate. We celebrate Africans and African Americans and labor for tireless work and involuntary and laborious contributions to the building of this nation's and this state's infrastructure. We celebrate those whose uncompensated labor has often been buried by a refusal to acknowledge valuable contributions and an unwillingness to acknowledge and provide recompense. Our nation's infrastructure, through the knowledge and specialized skills of people of African descent, despite being determined illiterate, richly benefited those who enslaved them. Through work in agriculture, mining, piloting of fishing boats, printing presses, dairy farms, and countless other skills brought to this country from their homelands. We celebrate the labor of those who provided us essential inventions, such as the traffic light by Garrett Morgan, automatic elevator doors by Alexander Miles, the blood banking system by Dr. Charles Drew, who subsequently died after being denied blood through the system he created following a car accident. We celebrate the invention of the refrigerated truck with a roof mounted cooling system by Frederick McKinley Jones, the clothes dryer by George Sampson, hair care products by Madam C.J. Walker, the laser cataract removal surgery probe by Patricia Bath, potato chips by George Crumb, the automatic gear shift by Richard Spikes, the folding cabinet bed by Sarah Good, the multiplex telegraph for trains by Granville T. Woods, and countless other inventions from the labor of Africans and African American laborers. We celebrate the labor of Africans and African Americans whose music, cuisine, dialect, art, and tireless work in social justice crusades contributed to our rich American culture, all rooted in African customs. Today, we celebrate people who came in voluntarily, oppressed and denied the dignity of their value and self worth, declared private property, who taught and trained and created patents for which they were never credited because their status declared them ineligible to receive credit for their own creations. We celebrate people who advanced from inconceivable treatment and subjections, overcoming the odds and continuing in their notable labor. We celebrate Africans and African Americans who continue to shape Maryland's history from the colony's founding in 1634 to today in 2025. We celebrate the historical and present labor that has fueled Maryland's economic growth and placed us in a position of national prominence. Today, we celebrate those who labored in Annapolis, shaping the history of the state's capital, Africans and African Americans like Lucy Smith, who rented stall number 9 for 7 years in the Annapolis Market House and operated Aunt Lucy's Bake Shop near the corner of Main and Green Streets. And her son, John Smith Jr., and other African American entrepreneurs, including William Bishop and Moses Lake, who owned and operated businesses in downtown Annapolis. We celebrate John T. Maynard, who worked as a waiter and ran an Annapolis boarding house, who bought the land at 163 Duke of Gloucester Street and ran it as a boarding house until 1915, when Willis Burgess, an African American tenant, purchased it at auction. It ran in his family until 1990 and is now known as the Maryland Burgess House. Today we celebrate the labor of African Americans who fiercely ran for office, like William H. Butler, born into slavery, later becoming Maryland's first African American elected city council member. We celebrate the labor of Africans and African Americans who have graced this state house, fighting for liberty and justice for all. Africans and African Americans whose labor continues to contribute to the establishment of laws in this great state, including those who are sitting amongst us right now in this very room, built by our ancestors but not enjoyed by them. We celebrate the labor of our current leaders, including the Speaker of this House, Adrian Jones, the labor of our governor, Wes Moore, the labor of our former first African American treasurer, Richard Dixon, and our current treasurer, Derek Davis, and our first Black Attorney General, Anthony Brown. We celebrate those whose labor for liberty and justice for all boldly grace these halls in the name of justice, like abolitionist Frederick Douglass, and a woman whose blood runs through my veins, as I am proudly the fifth generation great niece of Harriet Tubman. We celebrate my African American colleagues in this room who are running for our lives to make this state and this nation a better place for our children, for your children, and our children's children. Today, we celebrate.